Good evening and welcome to episode 3 of Racing Clear. Hard to believe it's week 3 already. The weeks are flying by and I'm delighted to be joined by Matty Sutcliffe once again. Plenty to discuss this week. We're going to do a review of the DRF. I know that's not the normal modus operandi, but we think there's plenty to discuss. First of all, Matty, how was your week?
Hello everyone. My week was a bit frustrating. It was one of them crossbar weekends, just where everything just runs into a place and trades short. You think you're on for a great weekend, and then they just blow up and running. Like you had Rushmount 6-6 to 1, given an absolute awful amount to do. Got backed in nicely, finished fourth for a place. Had a Gay Legacy at Sandown off the track for a while. Thought I'd give her a chance. She traded short, 25-1, blew up and running. Wingman got well backed in 25s into 8s, managed to get that one as well. And I had Rianne as well at 33s placed. So, like, a good amount of places, but just had some very well backed losers as well, like El Fabiolo, of course, like 8-1 into favourite. Just fell 2 or 3 fences in. Solo was backed in, he was absolutely terrible. Then in some obviously terrible punts like Marble Sands, and just never went a yard. And Florida Dreams never went a yard either. So it was one of them weekends which along the right lines, but frustrating enough. That's it. And with you, James?
Yeah, I was similar now, I'll be honest. I know we had a GA and an analogy last week. I'm going with a golfing one this time around. To me, it was like a round where I hit the ball well. I did plenty right. Happy enough with my game. But I looked at my scorecard and I just didn't score as well as I thought. Um, got plenty of calls right. Some of them didn't play them. Some of them thought they were gone too short. Um, Whereas the previous week, I think I got most things wrong, and I managed to kind of just wash my face and basically break even on the week. This week, I felt like I got a lot of the bigger calls close to right anyway, and just didn't make it pay. Grange Walk, I didn't mention him here, but I did put him up in my at the races column. He was placed at 50-1, so that was most of the profit for the weekend. Kicking myself over Kopek to board. Um, Kicking myself for a couple of reasons because I mentioned last week in the show how keen he was on debut, and maybe I was just blinded by Salvatore Mundi, but I didn't play him for the Supreme, and not only that, but I learned a valuable lesson as regards the DRF because I spent the last 2 weeks looking for Cheltenham value prior to the DRF, and in that period of time, Final Demand, who I fancied, was 3-1 anti-post for the DRF, freely available. Went off much shorter. Kopek the board was 3-1 anti-post for the DRF, available for quite some time actually. Goes off odds on. Um, there's plenty of value in the DRF, but you need to get it early, I think, and that's my big takeaway from the week anyway. Um, but we'll go through the races one by one, the grade ones, and we'll have a look at them and get your thoughts, Matty. Final Demand got the weekend off to a very good start. He's an impressive novice, good winner of the Nathaniel Lacey. What were your thoughts?
We both agreed that he'd be the most likely winner, didn't we? And if anyone followed home with the forecast of Wingman, we'll gladly bring out the trumpet for that. I was impressed. Impressed with the way that he kicked clear 2 out. It was 2 seconds quicker than anything in the final furlong. Demonstrated it does have the turn of foot, perhaps for returners. The only kind of way I can sort of crab him is that I just wonder was the race just so perfectly set up for him, and did he actually beat that much to put him in contention for returners? I mean, Wingman and Mozzie's sister, they took each other on up front, and they just once the gap opened and once he came off the bend, like the race was sewn up for Paul Townend. I know that Willie's hell bent on sticking him in the turners. I know he doesn't quite like the Albert Bartlett. I mean, look what it's done to some of his recent years. The Nice Guy and other ones. And I just think, like, with the pedigrees, by walking the park, out of Fleming's first mare, like, I just think it'd been an absolute very sure thing for the Albert Bartlett. Am I worried about him beating the New Lion? Not on that evidence, but I did think it was very impressive still.
Okay, so you're still sticking in the New Line camp. Um, Similar to yourself, I feel like he would be a certainty or close to a certainty in the Albert Bartlett. Now I know favourites don't have a great record in that race, but he he lengthened rather than quickened to me. Like he went away, but there wasn't that acceleration that to me, I think tactics will play a big part in the turners. I think Paul Townend is going to have to be aggressive on him and knock the kick out of some of the others, because I wouldn't think he's the quickest horse in the race or the greatest acceleration, but I do probably think he has the most potential going forward. I think he's a cracking prospect for next year.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd agree with that. And also with the Turners is one of them races where you kind of, I think also with the Supreme, you have to stay in the Supreme. Whereas with the Turners, it's always a bit of a crawling sprint, isn't it? Like Ballyburn last season. I just think with Final Demand to win a Turners, he'd either have to have a pacemaker in there for him, setting a good gallop, or as you say, he'd have to mech it himself and just go a couple lengths clear and see what he's got in the end. So as you say, I don't think it's quite. Yeah, as you put it right, he's a galloper, not necessarily a speed horse, in my opinion.
yeah, so I think we're kind of in agreement, but I'd still just about. Now, I was trying to take on the new line, and that was my angle with Kopek the board last week. I'd still have Final Demand just tentatively ahead. Probably not as much as the market though, but we shall see. Hello Neighbour won the juvenile hurdle. I thought he was impressive the way he travelled. I didn't think he'd win this. Now I thought it would be one of Willie Mullins's. What did you think?
You know what? I was very impressed with it because the race didn't pan out whatsoever. If you look at the figure, I think it was the lowest RPR in the last decade of the contest. So on the face value, you wouldn't think it was necessarily the best contest, but they didn't go quick early whatsoever. Sonny Bill set very steady fractions in the front. And I think for a horse who is naturally a bit keen, I know the hood settled him a lot better in the later stages of the race, but he was still quite keen, wasn't he? And you get the impression he just wants to flat out at least a good gallop over 2 miles. Utilise that early that natural flat speed. And I just thought the way that he travelled and was just very impressive, really impressive. Would it be close to Lalamba or an East India Dock? Not on that evidence, but if the race does, it's a natural end-to-end galloping in the Triumph. I think he'd be quite a good horse. The one thing I got from it was next season over 2.5 miles, a Coral Cup or something like that, would be absolutely right up his street. So I do think he'll stay. I think he has got stamina in a bit of abundance as well. But yeah, I think he might just be one for next season. What do you think?
I'm not sure he's up to the level of the Lulamba and East India Dock personally. I did feel like he was valued for more than the winning margin on this occasion. I think he's comfortably now the pick of the Irish, and the dogs were kind of barking about him at Christmas time from the Cromwell Yard, and they seem to have been on the ball because I think he's the best of the Irish. I think he'll comfortably prove that at Punchestown maybe at the end of the season, but I don't think he is going to trouble the front pair in the Triumph. I think they're both very, very good, and I think he's maybe just below that.
Yeah, I would agree definitely. And also, I mean, I took him on with Lady Ellen Vega. I just think sometimes when a horse wins and then has a hood applied or cheek piece applied next time out, it always throws a bit of warning signs off me. So the fact that it actually improved him, I think, could only be a plus, and I do think he'll only get better.
Certainly, certainly. Now, I'm looking forward to your opinion on Majborough because he really, really impressed me. Like, I thought after watching Sergino's debut at Christmas, I thought there was nothing going to even come into the equation for the Arkle. But Majborough's a real player now. That's going to be one of the races of the week on the opening day, isn't it?
You know what? I was very, very impressed by him. And I'll tell you why. So the fifth, he was given a freebie early on, okay. But the fifth, sixth, and seventh fence, it was just completely skew if. Like, he didn't look like a natural chaser whatsoever. The ones Paul asked him to open up and gallop, like, he was so good at the eighth fair, the ditch, so good at that. And his jumping improved when Touch Me Not came back towards him, when he had company. And I just think, like, he's still quite a raw saw, but he has such an engine. And might not possess the natural speed of Sergino. That said, he did clock the quickest final furlong of any race on the whole card. So I think, probably contrary to what most people do think, he probably does have a bit of a turn of foot. But I just think, like, can he get close to Sergino? I think the horses that were in behind Majborough that day, I don't think they'd probably get close to Ballyburn, let alone Sergino. And we know that Ballyburn needs 3 miles. So I still, depending on what Sergino does this week in the game spirit, I'd still be in the Sergino camp. But I did think that Maggio was very impressive. I think some people crabbed it just on his jumping. But I'd say that the ability to overcome skew of jumping early on was a testament to his ability. What do you think?
Yeah, I know people were very, very critical of his jumping. Now, some of these indexes and stats, you can take them what you like, but he didn't actually lose a lot of ground at his fences. He was awkward, yes. He was low and, like you say, a bit skewed at a couple of them, yes. But he wasn't losing any ground or momentum. And I thought his jump was it the third last? Was it the last one down the back? That
There was
was
one, yeah, there
electric.
was one at the last ditch. It was almost like Galloping's 2 out, where he just absolutely took off, and I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, yeah. So I do think he has it in his locker. Look, he's a novice and he's going to make a couple of mistakes. I think you can forgive a novice that. Like Sergino made a couple of mistakes early on and then corrected himself quite quickly. So look, novices they can make a mistake, but as a whole, I wouldn't pin him just on the jumping. He went through the line really really hard, like you say. It took him a long time to pull up um, into a strong headwind as well. I was very impressed. I think he'll give Sergino plenty to think about. Probably the market is just about right in that, in my opinion. But I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd agree, definitely. Probably, I'd say a Gold Cup contender for the future as well, definitely.
Yeah, I think he's plenty of stamina, and I think that will make the Arkle really interesting because they're going to have to be aggressive on him, and it should be mouth-watering contest. Gallopin, of course, he just does what Gallopin does at Leopardstown and Cheltenham, wasn't it? It's just he's rock solid. He's brilliant. He can do it anyway. He can do it from behind. He can do it from the front. Yeah, people are saying, look, they didn't take him on, but fact the file was close to him the last day. They dropped him in to settle him to ride that horse to the best of his ability. I just think Gallopin is just brilliant. I still think he's probably a touch underrated.
Yeah, the most impressive thing, like what else can you really say about him at this stage? I mean, it's a privilege to be, the likes of myself and some others. They'd have missed the Court Star days on. They won't quite remember it, and then it's just such a privilege to be in the presence of one of the up and coming all time greats. I mean, if he wins the third Gold Cup, which let's be honest, I think he probably will. If he stands up and win it, he could even go back and win a fourth Gold Cup. That's how good he is at the moment. And the most impressive thing for me about him watching him last weekend was he just makes it so effortless. Like, I don't even think he realizes that he's in a race. Like, he almost switches off in the front, which is funny because normally when a horse kind of goes to sleep, you will kind of drop him out the back and try and get him covered and just race on the bridle. But he goes to front, he goes to sleep in the front, which is just it's an unbelievable thing to achieve. And like, he took 5 or 6. I mean, he took 5 or 6 lengths. Five and six, the fifth and sixth fence. It took 3 lengths out of Emerson Gardens, and you could just see the momentum shift. Like, he didn't quite want to be in front that much, but he was just so good that he just thought, right, that's it, I'll kick on again. And even like when Monty Star had to be ushered up briefly to get closer to him when Galloping got in tight, again it was so quick away from the fence and just completely unbothered by anything around him. And that ditch 3 out where the reach and the speed that he got like before and after the fence was just absolutely supreme. And I think people probably raised an eyebrow. I think I raised an eyebrow when Paul got racing quite early off the bend. But I think that's just because, like I said earlier, like, he just doesn't quite realise he's in a race until the business end. Like, everything comes so easily to him throughout the race. And I think he just needed a little slap down the neck to be reminded that he's actually got to go and win this race. And the way he powered clear was unbelievable. Second quickest final fail on the card. Not to, I think it was only 12, 13 for a second slower than Madsbury. It was absolutely unbelievable. Just a pleasure to watch him.
I absolutely adore that about him. His final furlong, always, it's so powerful, especially at Leopardstown. He's just going away like he nearly like runs out the gate at the other end of the track. Like he's just powering through the line. He's lengthening and opening up a gap on good horses. I just love him. I think he's brilliant for racing. He turns up. Like people are crabbing him because he's been beaten a couple of times at Punchestown, but that's after winning a Gold Cup. Like quite often, Gold Cup winners don't run again that season. But Willie is brave with him, and the Turleys, in fairness, which they want people to see this superstar. I think he's right up there with the very best that I've seen. I probably barely remember best mate. I'm a little bit older than you, Matty. I do remember Cotto. I loved Cotto, and he was brilliant. But Gallopin is right up there now, and like you say, I think he will win a third Gold Cup in March, and there's every possibility that he could even come back for a fourth in 12 months' time.
Yeah, and do you think? I mean, in my obviously, I'd still probably rank the greatest of the greats a little bit higher than him, just on like course, achieved it over different trips. But I just think if he wins that third one, if he wins a fourth one, I mean that'd be one of the most impressive feats ever achieved in any sport. And I think if he does get to that fourth one, I think we could be looking at probably the best staying chaser we've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll be having that debate this time next year. And he was 4-1 or 5-1 for the Gold Cup after he was beaten at Punchestown.
He
So
was, yeah, he was.
people say anti-post is dead. I don't think so. Anyway, we'll move on to the Sunday. Ballyburn opened the Grade 1 contest with his win in the 2 mile 5 furlong chase. Kind of mixed reaction for myself personally. He was impressive late on, particularly after the last again when Paul got a little bit serious with him. What did you think?
I absolutely love Ballyburn. I've loved him since that bumper win where his head was almost just touching the floor with how he runs. And I know that he's keen, but I think that's what makes him so good. And he's almost like Galloping the Champs in that sense that he doesn't quite realise he's in a race either. Like he's just switched off, and it's his attitude, it's his engine that's just so impressive. Like I said a couple of weeks ago that I think the reason they took him to Kempton was just to switch him on, just to make a man out of him, sharpen up his jumping. And I don't think he lost anything in defeat whatsoever, like I said at the time. And I know that he came to the last with Croke Park, and I think we probably underestimated Croke Park a little bit. And while he might not be a benchmark for the Browns or for future targets, I thought the way that he lengthened and stretched clear after the last over 2 mile 5 was so impressive. And like he's only going to get better or further. We said his pedigree backs it up. Following surf out of an Old Vic mare, he's only going to get better over 3 miles. And I mean, I absolutely love him. Absolutely love him. What did you think?
Yeah, I definitely think he's a huge engine. I agree. I think he'll be better when he steps up to 3 miles. I love the way that, to me, Paul Townend probably just said, "I'm going to jump the last year because I've plenty in reserve. I know I've loads of horse under me." He actually went from kind of just in front to a length down. The aerial shot was brilliant afterwards. Actually, I think it was RTE that it showed that, but
Mm.
he went a length down. And you kind of think, "Oh, could be in trouble here," but he just quickens then and goes through the line. 3 miles, no problem to him. Absolutely no problem to him. And it's probably a fair testament to him that he was able to go with Sergino even for as long as he did at Kempton, that he's not very slow. His jumping is probably safe rather than anything exuberant, but I think that's fine for a 3 miler. And yeah, he is a leading candidate in the Browns for me. I just think he is a little bit more class than Dancing City.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got it right with jumping. I think it's safe, it's economical. It doesn't waste much energy when he's jumping. I think for a 3 mile, it's kind of what you want. Just pop around at your own speed, and yeah, that'll stand him in good stead for the Browns. I wouldn't be in any rush to take him on at all.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. Co-pick the board. Like I touched on earlier in the show, I'm just kicking myself. Not only did I back him for the Turners, which is a -1, I didn't back him at the weekend. I missed the price with the Who Had the evening before and the evening before Dex and Kate Doughty drifting, and I just felt he was a little bit short then. Is there anything that? Well, first of all, I suppose I should ask you. I presume you were impressed.
I don't think I've ever been as impressed by a performance like that in a long time. Like he can go win the Supreme, he'd win the Turners after, and he'd win the Albert Bartlett again. Like that was just unbelievable. Like by far the best performance I've seen in a long, long time. Constitutional-esque. I mean, and similar to Balaburn, you think how on earth has he lasted home after pulling that hard? And like you could see him running out of Paul's hands when he met the loose horse, and he just thought, oh, he's gonna come back to him here. but he just lit him up. And if anything, it kind of switched him back on, and he just galloped so well to the line. And what I enjoyed the most was how much his jumping improved from last time out. I mean, when he was against Cowbung, he was just a little bit off it, just not quite fluent. But he's jumped a lot better at pace. I think he looked better in the big field, and it was just unbelievable. Like I've not seen a performance like it in a long time. What do you think?
Yeah, he was just like you say. Halfway through the race, I was kind of thinking, this he's going to struggle to get home in this. Like he's a very good horse, but he just was so keen. Like I think Paul was quoted afterwards as saying that 3 different times he felt he ran away with him almost during the race. And like you said, the loose horse then lights him up again, and you're still a long way from home there at Leopardstown, and it takes getting, and I thought it was just awesome. He never asked him a question, and he's just lengthening away up the straight. It was awesome, awesome display. Jumping was much better. The only thing, but you wonder, like, can he be much keener? I suppose he can, but Cheltenham opening day, first race of the festival, could he totally lose his race and blow his lid altogether? But like, he was fairly keen the last day, and it didn't seem to affect him. You just wonder, has he just got so much ability? And it was a wonderful interview with the owners. Actually, I'm not sure if you saw it, Matty, afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
just it's a brilliant story because we're used to the big owners having all the top horses in National Hunt these days, and I think this is a bit of a throwback. A genuine family, 4 sons involved with the father, sharing their common love for horse racing, and I think it's brilliant for the sport. It's good that the so-called ordinary guy. Now I don't know what these guys do for a living. I believe they're fairly well to do, but um, they have a really special horse, and they have something. They're going to have an exciting few weeks ahead.
Oh yeah, and I think the quote that got me was the father. I'm forgetting his name now. I said the most proud thing he it was seeing his boys cry, like his boys cry on
Yeah,
national television, like that. And that's what the sport can do. That's what it means to so many people. And I just thought I love that so much. It was brilliant.
yeah. That's a story that goes way beyond betting and making money, and we love to bet. That's our side of things, but the general public, they love a story. They love a bit of it's so relatable to everyone that's sitting in every house. If he won the first race at Cheltenham, and people are sitting in their living room and they're watching it. Casual fans of the sport, or not even fans, maybe that kind of story would just draw everyone into the sport, I think.
Exactly, and we shouldn't lose that either. That's what we should pride ourselves on as well. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Right, Solness. It was a controversial topic in the 2 mile chase on Sunday. Hugh Cahill had a right go with the jockeys union that he was in studio with. Now, while I admire that he wanted the question answered, I still feel like they just couldn't go to Gallop. What did you think?
Yeah, do you know what? I listened to it and I love Hugh Kell. I mean, I think he does some great work on the AK Bets podcast as well. And I just thought it was refreshing to see someone is in his position kind of be so open and honest about a topic that we don't really talk about, regarding kind of not quite trying in a race. But yeah, I'd be of the opinion that they just couldn't go the gallop. We see it quite often in like these like amateur races where one just kind of springs in front, and the others are caught sleeping, and it gets to a certain point where you just physically can't make up that ground against a horse that's in a rhythm like that. And I just think that was it. Like Gaelic Warrior, it was almost. Yeah, I think Paul probably would have pulled him up had he not found that second wind. And I just think when a 2 mile chaser is in a rhythm like that, like it's very hard to get to. I remember Matata in the at Lingfield or Windsor a couple of weeks ago. And he just went clear. Nothing could get near him. Nothing could get near whatsoever. Whether they were minding the marks, that might be probably a different comparison, but it was similar to that in the sense that nothing could just like live with them whatsoever. And I know Marine National came close, and Barry Connell's back on the Marine National hype train again, but he petered out, and I just thought very good performance, and probably underestimated if anything.
Yeah, I thought it was very good now. Like he was going 34, 35 mile an hour, between the second and fifth fence, I think it was. He didn't actually lead over the first, and then he just jumped the first well, and then just took
Yeah.
off. I genuinely think they just couldn't go, like you say. Gary Guire looked like he was going to be pulled up. He was making the only one to kind of make any shape was Marine National, but I thought Solness now deserves marking up potentially for keeping going as well as he did.
Would you consider
It's
him for something like the Champion Chase?
I think you have to put him in the reckoning now. Like he's done it twice. I know he disappointed behind John Bon in the Tingle Creek. Don't think anything came to light from that, but he has to come into consideration. Like there's not that many alternatives. If you are in the camp of, I know some people are very keen on John Bon, some people are keen to take him on. I kind of was looking to take him on, but I'm not sure there's anything to take him on with. And if you
No.
are, Solness probably is one of them now. It could be a right gallop if the likes of Matata, Solness, Ile Francais even potentially turn up. And if John Bond's ridden aggressively, it could be a right burn up.
And that's the thing. Like the only way you can sort of crab John Bon is his record at Cheltenham, and I don't buy massively into that. But if that kind of does come up trumps and he just puts in a couple of poor leaps, like he'll have a very tough task to kind of get to Solness, I think.
Yeah, I think if you are taking on John Bon, you're obviously hoping that he will underperform, be that the course or be that mistakes. You are, if he performs at the level that he's been at, I think he's improved again this season. If he performs at that level, I don't think there's anything in this field that's going to get to him.
No, I'd agree with that. But you never know, do you? There's
No,
always going to be one that's going to let down that muggy treble, isn't there?
yeah, and the Champion Chase in recent years has been an absolute graveyard for favourites. Like there's been 4 or 5 turned over odds on, I think.
Well, yeah, it
Um,
was El Fabiola pulling up effectively last year, wasn't it?
yeah,
Captain Guinness. I'll tell you what, that's one that's still I still won't give up on Captain Guinness. I still won't give up on him because if it cuts up and they go a good gallop again, there's only going to be one person, one horse staying on the finish.
yeah, and he does tend to run his best races at Cheltenham, certainly.
Yeah, well, I think
Um,
he's second in the last 3 renewals. I think he was.
yeah, and he's going to be a price.
and you know what Henry's like. He has his horses absolutely primed for the festival, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, they need to find some form soon, but they can often just find it on the Tuesday of the festival. I think Henry
Yeah.
has a
Well,
good schedule.
they had a special Cadogo in at 66-1 today, didn't they? Which is
Oh,
a bit of a
yeah,
strange one. So yeah, so they never know. They might come slightly back to form.
yeah. We move on to final grade one of the DRF. Was Stateman in the champion hurdle. Plenty of debate about this one as well. Would he have won if Lassie had stayed up? How did you think about his finish? What were your thoughts, Matty?
I don't think we learned much, did we? I mean, first he was glad to see Lossiemouth get up. I thought it was a crashing fall, and
Yeah,
I thought Stairman was quite clever in jumping over it. But yeah, he looked like he pulled quite well clear, and he looked like he summed back to himself. But then you look at the finishing distances, and Danny Longlegs was only 5 lengths behind him. And I know that it was eased down, but you just think, was it champion hurdle worthy? You know, it was good seeing back to somewhat what we know he can be. But I don't think we learn very much in truth.
yeah. He wouldn't be on my mind now for the champion hurdle whatsoever. I didn't like his finishing effort. Yeah, he was eased down, and Paul is taking it handy at him. But even when he shakes him up, the response isn't like he shakes him up after the last. He gets a bit worried, and the response isn't exactly dramatic from him. And apparently, after the race, I know from people that were at the track, he was blowing hard.
Right.
Um, and so it looked like he had a tough race, and like in the circumstances, he possibly shouldn't have. Now I know they went hard early on, but it was it was early enough that Lassimo departed, and he had a very handy time from
Yeah.
there home. I don't know. I'm not sure he's the same horse that he was last season.
No, I'd say he's regressed quite a bit. Eye catchers. What took your eye out at the DRF?
There was a few. I actually did my article this week for At the Races on Sunday evening, trying to get ahead of the game. And then the Irish handicapper, I didn't think he'd affect the Sunday ones until the following week, but he takes a look at them Monday morning and he absolutely hammers them. Uh, my number one kind of eye catcher was Storm Hart, but he got £7. Now, I still think there's a little bit of work in that, or there's a little bit of room in it, I suppose I should say. I thought he was unlucky. Now I know I had him back, so maybe it's a bit of pocket talk, but I feel like that was a very good race. I feel like it was a really strong renewal. Historically, it can be a good race, and off a mark of 147, I could see him winning a handicap in Ireland if the English handicapper does have a real go at him. But I'd be hopeful that after getting £7, he won't get too much more on top of that. And I'd like to see him step up and trip. I think he was flat to the boards. His jumping wasn't great. He was he went from being in a very good position to being in a poor position, and then stayed on from kind of three out. But I'd like to see him up and trip. I think something like the Carl Cup would be ideal for him. Had you an eye catcher?
Yeah, you just wouldn't want him getting put up an extra £3 to 150, would you? You just think, unless he can kind of get a decent claimer on board, you just think maybe 150 just be quite a tricky ask off that weight. But yeah, I mean, he hit the line strongly. Not sure quite, not quite look at his pedigree, but you get the sense that stepping up and tripping definitely suit him, sure.
And you had one, I believe one of your selections was, well, I don't believe, I saw it and I thought it was very unlucky. Is that your eye catcher to keep on side going forward?
Yeah, I'll just keep it short and sweet. Rushmount, I mean, I'll never feel injustice like it ever again. It's on a 66 to 1 shot. Rushmount held up stone last, had plenty to do, and flew home to be beaten 2 lengths. It was a tough one to take, but I mean, well, I mentioned it on the podcast last week, like the form behind Lecky Watson and things like that. He's got a lot of back class in his form, and I'm not sure what it was put up just yet. I've not quite looked, but I think off his mark, I think he'll win races soon, without a doubt.
I think he got £5 off.
See, that's not horrendous. Not horrendous. I've probably not got enough experience. Maybe I'm not sure he's got enough runs in him yet for Cold Cup, has he? I'd have to double check that. But if that was the aim, then I'd probably be all over him in Cold Cup. Sorry, yeah, that was his 5th run. So if he's given a Cold Cup entry, then you never know. But I don't think we're getting 66 to 1 again.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. That was a great selection, by the way, last week for each way supporters on the podcast. And on that note, I suppose we haven't done any promotion yet, so I'm going to do a shameless promotion of the podcast. So anyone, feel free to subscribe. We've actually got a few. That's why I didn't want to say it in the first couple of weeks in case we had none, but we've got a few subscribers. So we'd be delighted if you subscribe and follow, and you'll get notifications on every podcast then. So that's our promotion out of the way. We'll move on. Had you any other eye catchers away from the DRF?
Yeah, it was a Ethical Diamond in the Punchestown Maiden, won well. I put him up for as a counter hurdle selection 20 to 1 a couple of weeks ago on the GG column, and he just I know we needed that 4th run. I wasn't sure that 5th run. Sorry, thought he might go to something like the Red Mills Trials at Galway in a couple of weeks' time. But they entered him in the maiden, and he won very impressively. I know there was a couple of suspect rides in behind, but he was only given, I think he's been given £6 for that. So on the mark of 137, I think he is. Hopefully the English handicapper won't touch him too. Yeah, hopefully the English handicapper won't touch him too much, because he's a classy flat horse. Obviously, same connections as Absurd, who won the race last season. Has a form behind the likes of Carnegie. He's a juvenile. Good Ascot, good Royal Ascot form. Just your archetypal speed county hurdle winner. I think he's still available about 14 to 1. So they're keeping fresh for the race. I would have thought Absurd would have had a run by now if that was the plan to go back for county. Off 144, he's still probably well in. You just think, something clicks, and you just think this has to be the plan. So Ethical Diamond still available at 14 to 1 for the county. I'd be back with that price still.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would have had Absurd in mind for the race for a long time, but the fact that he hasn't run, I'd like him to have a prep sooner rather than later. Don't even think he's got any entries. I think I checked
No.
over the weekend. And Ethical Diamond, very similar profile, like you say, classy flat type. Yeah, I'd definitely be in agreement with that. 137, very workable, like based on the horses that were in and around him, particularly in the Leopardstown race last year, when he was a big eye catcher, I thought, at the Dublin Racing Festival last year. I think he featured in my column a couple of times last season, and he certainly caught the eye as well at Punchestown. Is that it for the eye catchers, or have you got anything else?
Yeah, that was it for me. Keep it short and snappy this time.
Did you have any look at the anti-post? We're going to browse the markets for the next piece. Now, I actually haven't looked at. I was burned so much last week that I haven't looked at any anti-post this week.
No, I just tied along with Ethical Diamond for the county. I thought those are obviously Rushmount, the DRF one, and then Ethical Diamond for the anti-post selection. That's mine. The DRF section would take its time up, didn't we? So I'll try to keep it short and sweet this week.
Very good, very good. Okay, we'll move on to our deep dive, and we're taking a look at what was the Schweppes. It was the Betfair. It's now the William Hill handicap hurdle. It'll always be the Betfair to me, unfortunately, but we're not sponsored by William Hill, so we can say that. Couple of stats in this one, just to give you a little bit idea. I mentioned, I think on the first week, that I like to kind of profile these races, and you are kind of looking for an unexposed young horse in this. 16 out of the last 18 were aged 5 or 6. 22 out of 26 had run 10 times or less. 9 of the last 15 winners were novices, and 6 of those had just 3 runs. So very lightly raced kind of profile. And 10 out of the last 18 had 4 runs or less over hurdles. So, you are kind of looking for your sexy, unexposed, kind of progressive type. Matty, had you a shortlist in mind for this, or had you any thoughts on it? Any general thoughts before we get into kind of selections?
Yeah, a little bit. I was surprised to see that there's no novice hurlers in here this time. As you mentioned, 6 of the last 10 winners were novices. None have been declared. 2 of the last 3 winners as well. There's an angle I was going to try and work out. Was 2 of the last 3 winners had a previous experience of a fencing this season. I think it was Oaken Risk and Glory of Fortune. But again, none of those in here. There's no general track bias. Last 5 winners, 1 made all, 1 was held up, 1 was in touch, 1 was mid division, and so no general track bias help us out in that bit either. 6 of the 10 last 10 winners rated in 130s. Top weights generally struggle. I think the highest weight carried is 11.8, and no bigger than a cloth number in number 3. So as you said, you kind of want to find something that's just unexposed towards the middle part of the weights. And just before, have you got any selections for yourself at the moment?
Selections, not so much. Like I know I mentioned I mentioned our champ for the race about 2 weeks ago. I'd say it was in the first podcast. He was 40-1 that time. I thought it was a very, very big price. I've been kind of tracking him since he's run the Jerry Fielding. But the more you look at this race, the kind of more you see dangers. Now, his price is shortened as well. Like I think he's into about 20-1 now, best price. Probably still a little bit of each way value, but I feel like he's going to bump into 1 or 2 that are just better treated. He is progressive in his own right. Maybe not so much this season so far, but I'm not sure he's had the circumstances to show it. Like last season, he went from an opening mark of 109 and finished the season rated 132. So there was huge progression in him last season, going up 23 pounds and winning 3 times in the process. He's only won once this season, and he's gone from an opening mark of 132 to 136. I still think there's a little bit of leeway in that, and I could see him running very well. Like he ran very well in the Jerry Fielding off this mark, finishing 3rd behind Navajo Indy. But something like Navajo Indy potentially may be more progressive than him. He's also very high up on my shortlist. Good course form, course figures of 121, and he really caught the eye at Windsor the last day behind Secret Squirrel. I actually backed Secret Squirrel in the race, but I had a look at the race since, and Navajo Indy just kind of got a little bit further back than ideal. I don't think he was really in love with the track, and I think galloping Newbury, where there's a real, if there was a real good gallop. Now, I was kind of questioning the pace. Do you think they'll go hard here? I don't see too many front runners.
No, there's not a small amount that want to go forward. I think Secret School probably will go forward. And I thought, the thing with Secret, I was with you on the last day, I backed him as well. And I just thought Nico gave him an absolutely unbelievable ride. I thought Windsor's going to be one of them tracks where you've just got to ride it so well. And he was kind of on the outside. He was on the outside at first. He was wasting away ground. I thought, what's he doing here? And then he came around that tight bend and just shot, got that rail and just shot through. And I thought that was very good from Nico. And I think the tight turns of Windsor probably helped him focus a little bit. I don't think he's the most straightforward. And all his best forms come on a sharp track, Taunton, Fontwell, Windsor, Kempton. So as much as I kind of like that performance last time out, I think I'd probably take Secret Squirrel on here. You mentioned Navajo Indy. He was a massive eye catcher in that race. Came right from rear to finish fourth. Made some great headway. He'd be the one that I'd be quite worried about. Favouring Fortune. Another one who made good headway in that Ascot Group 3, won by Fiercely Proud, with Cabral de Matal in second. Kept fresh for this race. I think he'd probably thrown in off 140 as well. Look at his novice form behind Django Bay. Sixth in the Supreme. He won the Scottish Champion Hurdle with the likes of Load of Sun in there. I just wondered he'd have to step up on that reappearance at Ascot with Fair and Fortune. But looks have been kept fresh for this. The one that I think I'm most keen on is the mare Joyeuse for Henderson and JP. Of course, I won the race last season with Iberico Lord as a 6-year-old. And she's just entirely unexposed. She's from the family of Epatont. She had the Taunton form franked when she made a UK debut. She then stayed on third to her Celtic Dino. It was quite a good effort on her reappearance, given it wasn't far behind Potts Charm in the Shallow, and 4 lengths behind Good and Clever, who was, of course, third to Cop at the board last weekend. Then she went to Cheltenham, and she was quite well backed at Cheltenham. And the issue with her there was kind of, will she handle the hustle and bustle of a big field handicap on just a 4-start on the rules? And she did. And I think if Nico, I've been praising for Nico for the last round of Secret Squirrel, I don't think it gave Joyeuse a good ride this time. Just didn't get the gap when he needed it. And she stayed on well. But yeah, I think that was a good form too. Beat Woodhoo, who is on a 6th time for Gordon Elliott. Completed a 6th timer there. I'm not sure what the plans are with her, but she's quite clearly progressive mare. Take No Chances winning 3rd that day. She went and then beat Kyrgyz next time out. So I just think she does fit the profile now. She is that unexposed, sexy horse that you talked about. And off a marker, I think 1, 2, 3. I think she can do some damage. That'd be my most confident selection for the race. The only other, and it's a bit wayward, is King William Rufus. Now, he is the rank outsider, and I'd completely write off the last race. It came 7 days after his Ascot success, carrying top weight on Shepstone heavy ground, and we can always forgive a horse for kind of one bad run. So I'd kind of write that race off. We go back to his race before that. It was at Ascot, bolted up by 6 lengths, quickest time on the card of the day, 1 ease down. It was very impressive, and it was one of them performances where he kind of thinks, right, next step for him is one of these Premier Handicap hurdles, and I thought it was really impressive. Then you looked at the time before that, and he was second to Cabral de Matan, only beaten 4 lengths. I know Cabral de Matan was eased down himself, but the gap wasn't necessarily closing either. He came back towards him. Cabral de Matan's £16 higher now, having been beaten by a Fierce Proud and Secret Squirrel, only 2 lengths by Secret Squirrel. So his form does tie in with 2 or 3 at the top of the market. He's got course and distance forms, beaten 2 lengths by Jericho de Repine. And obviously he's not hit the same height since, but he's still rated 143. And returns from a break, 43 days off. And I just think when he's got the form that ties in with the head of the market, I think he's visually very good at Ascot and a good time. I think he's massively overpriced for a trainer who's won this obviously a couple of seasons ago. So I'd be most keen on Joyeuse, and then I'd have a good each way. Well, half a point each way on King William Rufus, just in case.
Yeah, I think I can definitely see the angle on that. And 33-1 is quite big on King William Rufus. Like you say, the form ties in with those at much shorter odds. I'd be tentatively Navajo Indy for win purposes, but I do think our champ is a decent each way poke, and I just give a mention to one we haven't mentioned, Iberico Lord, just last
Yeah,
year's winner. He was very, very impressive last year and pulled clear with Loda Sud, who obviously then went close in the county hurdle afterwards. He is £10 higher, but there's £3 claimed off that by Freddie Gordon. I know it's a slight negative that Nico isn't going to ride him, but potentially they might have been looking to take some weight off him anyway because he's set to carry 12 stone. So I
yeah,
thought
top
maybe,
race. Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Top
So I
race
thought
don't
maybe
necessarily
that.
hurt in the race either.
No, and again, I could see him running well, but probably not winning.
No,
Um,
I think it's a big price side. 14-1, I think it is.
he's 14 or 16-1, yeah,
Yeah,
which is
I think it's
plenty
still
big
a.
enough.
I think it's still a big enough price, definitely.
Yeah, very good. So that's our look at the William Hill handicap hurdle. We'll move on to putting our minds together and our brains, our collective brains, Matty. 1 out of 3 the first week, 1 out of 3 the second week. We're going yay or nay. We're going to try and find another 3 selections for you this week. Hoping for better. But look, it hasn't been a total disaster. We've been getting a winner on the board. We'd love to get 2 or maybe 3. But have you any strong fancies for me to give the thumbs up or down to this week?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with Kruger Park in the 150 at Sandown. Now I've made it kind of a pledge in recent weeks to just ignore Paul Nicholls' horses completely, and I didn't do that last week with Solo, and I obviously should have done because he ran like an absolute drain. But he's had 3 winners since the start of February, and I just think he's now coming out of the other end of that January blip that he does tend to have. And then Kruger Park, he absolutely threw the race away last time out, Utoxeter. Went about 7 lengths clear and just wandered around. He's still quite, he has got a quirk, he's still quite a raw horse. He just threw the race away. Like, he got so lonely in front. But he went several lengths clear and he was only collared in the last few strides. Now, the winner's gone up by £6 after a length third in a competitive 26 grand handicap at Haydock. That was a class 2. So the form has slightly worked out. Then I just think he's been off since. And if you look at when he last won at Newbury. He last won here. He absolutely bolted up 8 lengths again. Like that time, he was kind of wandered in front. It was a bit straight at that time. I think Gingell did well to keep him straight and true, bring him to that rail. And the second Ilva de Soy, he's now rated £18 higher. Form figures 2 wins, a 5th and 2nd since, and they pulled 30 lengths clear of the 3rd. So I think the fact that they bring Kruger Park back here, back to Newbury on a ground that he'll like, over a trip that should suit if he settles a lot better. I think he does get better with his racing than he saw last season. In not the most strongest of contests with the yard back in form, I think Kruger Park's a decent player, around 7-1 now.
Yeah, I like that, Matty. I like that. I had a good look at you. You sent on the name earlier, and I had a good look, and it was a race that I kind of thought was a little bit weak. I think it's very winnable. I
Yeah.
had kind of looked at Ballygriffin Cottage, but he's a boomer bust, and probably a bust. But I just see he's moved to Harry Durham, and perhaps he can work a miracle with him.
Yeah.
But no, I do like Kruger Park. I love Newbury Farm. I think it's a place where Course Farm, time and time again, comes to the fore. And yeah, I think he's a good play at 7-1. I would expect him to go off shorter. I think he'll be a 4-1, 9-2 kind of shot by the off.
Yes, so yeah, definitely. There's not a lot in there that there's not a lot that I just trust either in there at all. Hazy Calairs back over fence. I think they just minded him for probably something like National on Chase. You got the favourite who's probably just there for a pipe open to keep his legs going. So yeah, hopefully that'll be the first one that'll come in.
Very good, very good. That's a yay. We're in agreement. My first selection for this segment of the show is Peak Rock for Ben Pauling. He runs in the novice handicap chase at Newbury. I think it's off at 4:10. I know that there's potentially an argument. I'll give you the negative first, that this horse doesn't find a whole pile. Maybe he should be winning races and he isn't. I do feel that he should have won the last day at Exeter and he was beaten ahead by Sam. However, the positives for me are that I think this horse has been absolutely screaming for a step up and trip. Like, he's run very well in 3 of his last 4 starts. He fell on the other occasion on handicap chase debut behind in a race won by Asta La Pasta. But he's been second 3 times in his last 4 starts. off hurdles marks of 1:23 and 1:28, and most recently chasing off 1:32. He travelled very well at Exeter, just got a little bit at a vital time. I think over 2.5 miles, he doesn't have that little kick that you need win over 2.5 miles. But I just think 3 miles, he's going to make the running. I don't see much competition for the lead. I can see him just jumping, travelling, and being very, very difficult to catch. I thought he'd be much shorter price now. I had him in around 3-1. There's 11-2 available. I would be shocked if this horse doesn't end the season higher than 135. He just simply has to be. Everything screams that this is a 140 plus horse. You combine that weight in hand with the potential for the run of the race. Quite often at Newbury, we see them being hard to peg back. I think he's rock solid. Shoot me down, Matty.
Do you know, I like Pick Rock. I think what he did as a novice herd last season was progressive. And I remember Ben Pauling saying, this the fences chasing is all his game. But you touched on it earlier. It's just his attitude. And I just wonder if some of these Mount Nelsons are a bit soft, especially over fences as well. But then you look at the race and you think, well, Lord of Thunder's a bit soft as well. Half of them have either pulled up, fallen, or not finished the race out anyways. And Heracles Westwood, he beat Deafening Silence last time, I didn't it? But Deafening Silence, I thought Deafening Silence had the potential to be quite a decent horse. But Deafening Silence was pumped by in that novice chase on seasonal debut, wasn't he? Yeah, I like Pick Rock. I do like him. I think he's got the most unexplored potential in the race. And if he can be delivered well, I think he's got the best chance of winning. So although he might be a bit of he might have a bit of an attitude problem, it's a very tentative year for me.
Okay, that's good. We're 2 out of 2. Yeah, look, this is last chance saloon for him. I think I backed him the last day at a bad price as well, and I feel like I got burned. I feel like he should have won, but I saw the price here and I looked through the race and I said, why is he this price? And I was able to pick holes in the others just so easily. And the favourite, I think, is very short. He's gone up a lot in a short enough space of time. I think he's vulnerable now of this sort of mark. Like, he's only getting, I think it's £6 from Peacock. Yeah, £6 he's getting from Pickrock. I'd be surprised if he's winning £6 of Pickrock ability wise. The question is, will we see Pickrock's ability? I suppose.
Well, I mean, even when Pickrock won that Ascot novice last season, around it was in February as well, beating the Waterside, Vincenzo, and Phantom of the Points, like they're decent yardsticks. I know in the Waterside's rated 140 over fences now, so you'd imagine that he's got some scope as Pickrock. You just want to put them all in, don't you?
Yeah, I hope so. Your next selection, Matty?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit rogue and go for one on the Friday, and that's rogue is the operative word. It's a phlegmatic at Kempton. Now, I've just been waiting to back him all season, and he gets the first. If I backed him when the cheek piece went on in the, I think it was a Howden Silver Cup, when he just stayed on well. He gets first time blinkers now. He was second in first time cheek pieces when they came on, and it's just the angle here is just going back to Kempton. Like, I know that Kempton and Ascot are kind of similar sense over to both right-handed, but I just think Kempton form is just gospel. Like, a third, 3 wins, 2 seconds at Kempton and a non-finish. Like, he's second and fourth in the last 2 renewals of the old Racing Post Trophy, whatever they call it these days. And then you just think, like, the last 2 runs he's had, just such good efforts, beating 10 lengths in the Howden Silver Cup, finished close up behind the likes of Trelawney, 300 through 5. And I think he just got there too soon in the Bet365 handicap chase at Ascot. And he's only length behind Hitman. I know it's a handicap, but I sometimes think when you're coming up against these higher rated handicappers who are taking on lower rated handicappers, like, there's such a massive gulf in class. And I think when you're close up to them, it's quite impressive. You've got to think Hitman is running in the demonstrator this weekend. Fly Market was the length behind him, and now he's running in the Class 3 at Kempton. His first time in the Class 3 since winning over course and distance in February 2022. Skelton jumps back on, and I just think if it's not now, when will Phlegmatic ever go in again? Off a mark of 131, I just think if it's not now, when? So Phlegmatic to me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement again. We're in full agreement this week. For people that are just watching for the first time tonight, we often disagree as well. So it's not just an act, but no, I like that angle, like you said, and I looked through this race because you caught me unawares with the Friday, and I looked through it then, and I just feel like a few of these are not getting their conditions, or they have other targets. Whereas I think this is his Gold Cup or whatever you want to call it. And like you say, he's down to class three. Um, if not now, I think you summed it up brilliantly. If not now, then when for Phlegmatic? And I would agree with that. That's a yay for me as well. So we've got our three selections. We're going with Phlegmatic on Friday at Kempton. We're going with Pickrock, who I convinced Matty about to stick with me at Newbury on Saturday in the 410. And we are going with, remind me again, what's
Kruger
the?
Park. Kruger
Oh,
Park.
yes. Yeah, in the second race at Newbury on Saturday.
Yeah. Two last chance saloons and a Nichols horse. What could go wrong?
Yes, yeah. We are playing with fire. Um, we'll move on to our final segment of the show. The hour has absolutely flown by. Matty, your best bets for the weekend?
Yeah, I'll go with my nap as Joyous for the aforementioned reasons. My next best was going to be Phlegmatic. I think I'll stick with Phlegmatic. I was going to touch briefly on Gallimar, so but I think she's a prize for all there to see. And my each way is a bit of a one you've got to put a bit of trust in. It's JPR1 to get up against Sergino. Now, Sergino, I completely get. I understand how impressive it was. But I know there was could remember the conversation when Factor File beat Galloping the Champs in the John Durkin, and everyone was saying, "Oh, it's a change of the guard," and not many people kind of thought, "Well, it's over the completely wrong trip. We know how Galloping stays," and I just wonder whether you can kind of attribute that to how Sergino beat Ballyburn. Like he's beat Ballyburn 10 lengths. Ballyburn's trip is not 2 miles. It never has been 2 miles over fences, especially. And I know it was so impressive. I know that the time was impressive, visual was impressive, but it's a big ask to win the game spirit on your second run over fences as a novice. And he's the most likely winner. But the last horse to do that was Altior. The last novice to run the race was Altior. So he's going to have to be very close to Altior this stage in his career to win a race like this. And the only other novice in to have raced in the game spirit in the last 10 years was Dodging Bullets. And Dodging Bullets was second in the race before going to win the Clarence House, beating Spinner Sacre, and then the champion chase. So it does tell you how hard it is to do as a novice. And while I know he probably is one of the best 2 mile chasers potential we've seen since, well, a typical Henderson 2 mile chaser. I just think there is an angle to take him on. And I just think JPR1 was wildly underestimated around the market. His only blot on his copybook over fences was at Cheltenham and the Arkle. It just didn't quite go well for him. Was hampered by a 4 or 5 out in the race. I just kind of draw a line through it. I think he's a lot better on a flat track, a flat galloping track. And then he posted a seasonal. Well, he won the Holden Gold Cup on their seasonal debut. Posted career best at the time. Beat Jello, who then went to win their Peterborough Chase. And then he was only 10 lengths beaten by John Bon next time out around Christmas time. I just think being beaten 10 lengths by John Bon, didn't stay up the Sandal Hill at all. He kind of just stayed on one pace. And then you look at, well, Edward Stone's beaten 10 lengths by John Bon. Last time out, Pete John Bon. Like John Bon probably was just slightly below par, maybe, at Sandown or below fitness. So when you've got JPR1 coming very close like that and Edward Stone coming very close as well, I think he's overpriced. And then you got to look at, well, JPR1 beat Matata last season at Lingfield. Matata's in there at 11 to 2, 6 to 1. JPR1's a rank outsider. And they are just, the Tizard Yard have been very open and honest with the fact that they are just minding his mark. Not his mark, they are just minding how the campaign this season. They're very open in the fact that they think he's their future star chaser, and they're being careful. And they wouldn't run him if they didn't think he had a chance of winning. I like that he's come back fresh. His record fresh, 3 wins, 4 wins and a 7th. The only obviously block coming at Cheltenham. And I just think he can either be the one to follow Sergino home or even beat Sergino if it's too hot for him. But around 25 to 1, I think there's a great each way price to finish second at least.
Yeah, I think I see the angle. I think Matata is definitely short. I know he was impressive the last day, but he got the run of the race. And like Sergino, I think he's unbelievable talent. I can't wait to see him on Saturday against these horses, but he's 4-9, 1-2. Like it's, would John Bond be much shorter? Like if he was in the race,
You wouldn't
and
be
he's
following him.
proven. Um, so I think he is taking up a fair chunk of the market, and I see the angle for taking a punt each way. Um, my nap is going to be Pick Rock. I'm sticking with him. I fully believe that 3 miles is going to bring out the best in him, and that he's going to fall over the line. Um, my next best is going to be Shake 'em Up Harry. Now, I know there's the potential, and you made the point to me earlier today when we were having a little chat about what we were going to discuss, that his target is the plate, but he won prior to going to the festival last year, so I don't know, they weren't really minded his mark then. Now, he's 4 pounds higher than his plate success. Even if he's dropped 2 pounds, he's now 11. I'm not sure he's going to be winning a plate, regardless, even if he gets dropped. And I feel like they'd have campaigned him maybe a little bit more aggressively and trying to get that mark dropped if that was the aim. I think he's got the perfect conditions here, 2.5 miles. And I just think he's better than these at this sort of trip. Like it's none of these would have won the plate last year off a 4 pound lower mark. I think his main dangers wanted slightly different. Lamilas, I think, wants a little bit further than this. Most of his wins have been over 3 miles. Fugitif looks like it's his second preference. So the race, there's not a whole pile in here. And I think as an 11-year-old, there may not be too many more opportunities to get that win. And I think he's going to be trying. And I think if he is, he has a cracking chance. And my each way, look, I touched on it earlier as well. I have to stick with our champ because I'll be kicking myself having mentioned him a couple of weeks ago at 40-1. He's still around 22-1, I think, best price, and there's 5 places available on that. So I think that's a little bit of each way value. I think he may not win. I think there may be one or two better than him, but I do think he has a good each way chance, and you'll get a good run for your money with that. So they're our best bets. Matty, best of luck for the weekend with the punting. We've gone just over the hour, but I'm going to tell people one last time to subscribe to the channel to get notifications on future shows. Thanks very much for joining me, Matty. You've been brilliant as always. Your knowledge, it never ceases to amaze me. The depth and the preparation that you do every week for us and for the followers. So it's greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for coming on. Matty, you've been brilliant. I've been James Flaherty. We've been racing clear. Hopefully we're racing clear this weekend. Thanks very much.
Enjoy the weekend out.
You too.